Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Juanita. I'm with Jscursions. And just to give you a little background, my husband and I lived in a 1909 home in Portland, Oregon. And we sold that home to move out to 5 acres out in the country. And so since we've been out here, been building an art studio and guest loft and all that, one of my garden beds had to be torn apart because of this build. Just to get to the water source as well as electrical. So for that reason, it is in disarray right now, but it will look once again beautiful. So that's what I'm going to be working on. Now you will be hearing the neighbors playing with their toy in the background, so I apologize, but that's part of living out in the country when you have four-wheelers. So we're going to do the best that we can with that. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. I've got a ton of marigolds over here that I need to clean out. I think I have some geranium right here. I've got some lupin right over here. And then I've got some black-eyed Susans over here. I've got another lupin right here. And then I've got a ton of bumbleweed that is really kind of choking out some of this other black-eyed Susan and other plants that I have going on over there, like all of these marigolds. It looks like they're reseeding, but this has to go. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add lamium instead because it's more controllable. Maybe salvage some of this bungleweed and place it elsewhere, but for ground cover it just doesn't work for me. There is some candy tuft here. I'm going to remove that. Don't need any candy tuft. And then there's a few little weeds here popping up along with some new little flowers here. And then over here I have a ton of daphnes. I got to get this whole irrigation line lined up again. And then I think what I'm going to do here, rather than adding those steps that come back through here, I may add those back in. I'm not sure, because this is really, right here is really where I want to plant the Japanese maple right here. I've got some irises that are coming up over here, and then some dianthus over here, more lupin over here, which this lupin really is going to get too large. I really should have moved it, but I'll wait till fall to do that. I want to get rid of this candy tuft. Candy tuft can really take over. It looks like there's some, maybe some hyacinth and some daffodils growing in between there. And then I do have one hellebora that I planted in the ground in the container just to overwinter it. So that's what I'm going to be working on. So you guys, welcome. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So if you're new to gardening and you're wondering what I'm doing, well, basically with black-eyed Susan, this is old last year's flowers, and so I am going to be removing these because all the new flowers and foliage is going to come from the ground up. So by summer, these are going to be just as tall and beautiful, and so I'm just basically cleaning it up by removing these old spent stalks. And any kind of root like this that are old, I'm removing as well. a good example of how bumbleweed grows if you're not familiar with it. So it'll shoot off some strings like this above ground, but then in each of these nodes here, roots will take place and it'll root itself, and then it'll grow more foliage, and then that'll continue to string out and grow more and more to the point that it starts choking out plants. And so yeah, every node here just will root down on the ground and it'll produce roots like this. And these are pretty small, but there are some that are very deep rooted because these will grow further down in the ground and create larger root system like this. And that's what's really difficult to pull out. Now, I did put some aside, as you saw right here. I've got quite a few here and there that I'm going to go ahead and transplant somewhere else. I think in the side of the road where you know, I want to do some weed control or grass control, then these would be really nice in that area. But around my flower beds, I just don't think that they're a great idea because they tend to choke out your plants. And then if you're growing stuff like even marigolds, for example, and then they seed out and you pull these out, then that plant isn't going to have a very successful rate for growing because these are going to choke it out. So for that reason, I don't like bumbleweed as a ground cover unless it's on a rock bed, or maybe even a container would be good. But any area that I don't care how fast it grows or what it takes over, because it will choke out weeds. And that's the one nice thing about this. But yeah, in a flower bed, not where I want to keep it. I think lamium is much better. Lamium kind of has the same pattern growth, like where it'll stem out like this and it'll continue to root down and produce roots through the nodes. But the thing is with lamium is that it's very easy to pull out. It's easy to divide. This, as you saw me, you know, pounding on the roots, that's how deep and hard and how they cling on to the ground. And so that makes it so much harder. With lamium, I've never had that issue. So I'm gonna end up putting lamium here because it's much prettier. It's got all year round interest, and it has a long lasting bloom. And yeah, and even the foliage itself is really pretty. So I can't wait to get planting on here. But I wanted to show you this. So if you're not familiar with bumbleweed and you want some advice, my advice would be put it in a place where you want weed control or where you're not going to be planting some beautiful flowers and have them choked out by these. So that's my opinion. I'd be really curious to find out what your thoughts are on this, where you grow your bumbleweed if you grow it, and also what your thoughts are on bumbleweed as ground cover as a whole. Okay, gotta get back to work. So I still have a little bit here, a little bit here. I am gonna take it all out just because it shouldn't be here. Okay, you guys, it's been like about, I don't know how many days since I last started working on this garden. As soon as I started picking up a lot of the debris that I had taken down from this garden, it started pouring down rain on me, and it hasn't stopped raining since. Now, today we're going to get like up to 76 degrees, so it's going to be a perfect day for me to finish this garden. So let me walk you through all the plants over here and show you what my plans are this far. I noticed that there was still some creeping Jenny and some bumbleweed still left over here, so I'm gonna also be removing that, and anything else that I see that shouldn't be in here, I'll be removing, and then I'm gonna be adding the soil. Now, when I'm completely done at the end of the video, I will show you where I placed all the bungleweed. You will be surprised where it's at. So stay to the end. And if you guys really enjoy this, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification button so you catch me in all my videos. Okay, you guys, let's get started. Okay, so now that you can see the trees through the forest, this is what it looks like, and this is how far I've gotten. Now I have an orange stonecrop sedum that I brought from my Portland home that I have intended to put over here. So what I'm going to do is, there's a blue lupin right behind it. I'm going to be removing that and putting this in place because I think this is going to look really beautiful with the black-eyed Susan over here as well as here. And then I've got this wild geranium that's going to fill out this whole spot, that's going to be blue in color. And I think because this has yellow flowers, these are going to be good complementary plants for each other. Over here is where I had all the marigolds from last year. When I pulled out all that bungleweed over here, as well as that creeping Jenny, I was for sure thinking that this was going to pull out a lot of this new starts. But as you can see, there's a ton of them. So I'm going to have a good crop of marigolds over here once again, which is going to add a lot of color in this area. The daffodils here, I just kind of put them in the ground just so that it continued to get watered. These I'm going to move around so they won't be right there, as well as some of these, just these spring bulbs here. I'll probably be moving those around. Maybe, maybe not. Looks like they might be okay there. Now in the container, I have an Orangeola lace leaf Japanese maple. And this one here is going to get about 3 feet to 4 feet tall and wide. However, at full maturity, 10 years down the road, because this will probably grow about 1 foot a year, so I'm not 100% sure, but over 10 years, this is actually going to get about 8 feet tall, 7 feet wide. So because of that, and because I'm not sure of the placement, I thought I'd put it in the container. And the reason for that is because Japanese lace leaf maples, they have a very fine, kind of hairy type of root system, and it's also shallow rooted. Because of this, they do not take to retransplants very well. They're very much like a Lithodoria, if you're familiar with Lithodoria. And if you've been following me for a while, you probably already know that I killed a Lithodoria in my Portland home because they don't like to be moved around. They can be, just like Japanese maples, but it takes a lot of TLC to do it. And so I want to make sure of the placement because this area here gets a lot of sun and it gets hot from my experience of last summer. And so this can handle some sun. Let's put it this way. The Orangeolas can handle the most sun. However, it does require filtered sun to part shade. But this may get shaded down the road, and that is another reason for keeping it in the container. So right here is where I'm going to place it, because if I do permanently place it here, then it's going to cover these two areas where I have my, I think this is my water source and that's my septic for the new build. So that'll probably cover that. And then over here, I'm going to add some lamia. And then over here, I have a lo and behold, this one's going to get about 3 feet tall and wide. So this is going to be perfect for right here. I may move it just a little bit further this way, but because this gets 3 feet by 3 feet tall and wide, it will not obstruct the view of the peony over here, because that'll get probably about 4 feet tall and wide, or approximately 3.5 feet. I will be removing all of that sweet william back there, and then just adding some soil over here, cleaning up that area over there. Over here, I'm going to plant the, I think it's bearded iris, that it was left outside. So I'm gonna plant that right here because I think it'll have some pretty spring flowers. And then it'll have green foliage for the, summer months. And then I have some poppies here that I'm going to be planting over here. And these will kind of spread, so it'll be kind of a nice area for them to spread around. And then the Sweet Williams, I'll probably just kind of clean them up and kind of corral them a little bit. But those are going to be very pretty over the summer. They're going to have some height, and they may overshadow the peony, but that's okay because you can see it from a different direction. And then, yeah, just add soil here. So that's where the plan is. Ornamental poppy, and that requires full sun. Okay, you guys, I'm completely done and it looks amazing. Now we are expecting to have some thunder showers as well as some golf-size hail. That is what's predicted over here today. So I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. Now I added mulch, but I ran out of it. So keep that in mind, but it still looks quite amazing. But before I show you and step away, let me show you what it looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. Doesn't it just look amazing? Oh, I love it. I did run out of topsoil, but let me take the camera off the tripod and show you around. Okay, so I extended the garden and widened it right over here. And I still need to add some topsoil over here along this whole back area. But it looks so much nicer, much cleaner. Now, I did end up adding some plants and taking away plants. And one of the things that I ended up doing is dividing the bearded iris, and I put one chunk here. There was a hellebore back there. I removed it. I added this daffodil here. My peonies, they're all in tomato cages. Those will be removed. I just placed those in case I didn't see them and stepped on them. Wanted to protect them. And then I transplanted one of the marigolds that was right over here. I ended up transplanting it over here. These are all hyacinths, I believe. I trimmed back this candy tuft to expose all of these bulbs over here. And yeah, it looks so much nicer. I also, I'm going to put the name right here because this is starting to come up. And I did pull out quite a bit of it that was all right here. And I removed it, and it looks like some of it is still there. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that be, but we'll touch back on that, and I'll put the name down because it escapes me right now. Then I have a blue lupin here, blue lupin here. Cleaned the dianthus over here. Added another little chunk of the bearded iris here. And then over here, I added another couple of the marigolds that were in the front. I kind of divided them and put them there. And then I took out the actual bearded iris out and placed it over this way a little bit more. Here is the baptismia, the lo and behold. That's going to get 3 feet tall and wide, so that's going to be a perfect spot right there. Then I transplanted the dianthus, the sweet williams that was way over there, placed it over here, put my bricks back in. I still need to add 2 or 3 more in there. Over here, I added some new helleboras, one of the ones that I had over there, which was this one that I brought from my Portland home, and then I purchased some other ones, and so we'll see how well they weather over here in the sun because they really love shade more. But I thought I'd add some in a group over here and see how well they do because I love them. And the one that I had, this one here that I had over there, did perfectly well, so we'll see. But that's where that is. I kind of cleaned up the sweet williams here, did remove it from over there, and looks like I have some more sweet williams over here. I did add another chunk of the bearded iris right over here, right here, and to balance it out, I added it right over here. And then right here, this is absolutely beautiful, and this is only going to get about 10 inches tall, maybe a foot wide. And this one's a bog lavender, and it's just beautiful. And then I left these bulbs here alone. I did end up planting the Japanese orangeola, Japanese maple in a pot. I think that pot in the center looks beautiful. And then I added 3 lamiums, and the reason why I only added 3 small ones is because over time that's going to cover this area up. Now lamium in shade works beautiful, and it grows very slow, but it blooms all summer long. Now I'm talking about filtered lighting, and this will do really well. Now I've had it where it's been in a kind of a semi-shade area, and it had more sun exposure, and in the middle of summer it didn't weather very well. However, once you trim it after its first flush of blooms, then it does fantastic and it looks beautiful. So I think it's going to do just fine here. And then right here is the patch of the marigolds that were here last year. Some black-eyed Susans here. And I think I went over this, but I'm not sure. But this right here is a wild geranium, and it's blue in color, and it's going to fill in this whole entire area. And then This is a orange stonecrop sedum. It has yellow flowers, blooms in the summer, and it looks gorgeous. This one I brought from my Portland home. And originally I kind of planted it further back and decided to plant it further down. Now this will spread, so it will get much larger, but it's easy to pull out and transplant. Then I have more black-eyed Susans here. And then I added a couple of poppies over here and one poppy over there. I'll go back over there in a minute. And then the hyacinths, they were already in the yard. And then I have a blue lupin here. And then again, one last time, I kind of took and transplanted all of that Sweet William over in this side. So let me take you back over to this side. So right here is an ornamental poppy. This one's a beauty Livermore. It's going to look beautiful. And it gets about 30 inches tall. So it's going to probably spread, and it can spread right here all at once. So yeah, that's where my garden is. Okay, you guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. And I will see you guys on the next one. Love you. Okay, so let me give you a perspective of where I'm at. I'm right outside this gate, right next to the wishing well, and right next to my shade garden, as well as this other garden right over here, which I'm calling it the roadside garden. So right here is a stump. When I came out here to assess where to put it, all that bungleweed, and so I kind of cleared out a little bit of the space and added all the bungleweed and added it all around this, because I think it's just going to look really beautiful. Eventually I will carve out this with a drill or something and then place a plant in there. This is probably getting rotted over time, and so I'm thinking that maybe that could possibly be soft enough to dig out, at least to put a small plant in there. And maybe in here as well, you know, just kind of add some succulents of some sort that'll cover that. But this is where, oh, I see that the deer came out here and started moving this around. But this is where I put it, and it's just surrounding this whole little tree trunk right here. And I think it's going to look beautiful. Now I will be able to see it from my porch, these little blue flowers. So that's going to look really, really nice. And it gave me a place to place it. Also gives me a place that if I want to dig any of it up to put in a container or place it somewhere else in my yard, I've got an abundance that's going to be growing right here. And I think this is just going to complement this area.